Welcome to Mindleapic, your sanctuary for soothing tales that guide you gently into sleep. Tonight, we journey to ancient Egypt, a land of golden sands, mighty pyramids, and the whispering Nile. We'll explore the lives of its people, farmers, artisans, priests, and pharaohs, unveiling their daily routines, their loves, and the mysteries that still captivate us. If this story calms your mind, please like the video, subscribe to Mindleapic, and leave a comment with the historical tales you'd love to hear next. Now, settle in, close your eyes, and let the ancient world carry you to rest. Ancient Egypt thrived along the Nile River from around 3100 BCE to 30 BCE, a civilization of dazzling wonders and simple lives. The Nile was its heart, flooding each year to enrich the soil, giving life to crops and people. Most Egyptians were farmers, living in mud-brick villages under the blazing sun. Others crafted jewelry in bustling cities, or served gods in towering temples. Life was shaped by the river, the seasons, and the will of the pharaoh, seen as a living god. For every person, from peasant to queen, daily tasks, family, and faith wove a tapestry of existence. Picture a farmer's wife waking in a small mud-brick house, the air cool before dawn. Her home is simple, with reed mats on the floor and a clay oven in the corner. She rises to grind emmer wheat, her hands pushing a stone quern to make flour for bread, the staple of every meal. The family eats flatbread with onions or dates, washed down with barley beer, a drink safer than river water. Her husband is already in the fields, guiding a wooden plow pulled by oxen, preparing the soil for barley or flax. She joins him later, planting seeds or weeding under the sun, her linen dress damp with sweat. Her work doesn't end in the fields. She tends a small garden by the house, growing garlic, lentils, or lettuce, vital for meals when harvests are lean. Chickens cluck in the yard, and she collects their eggs, careful to save some for trade. If the family owns a goat, she milks it, churning cream into cheese. These tasks are endless, but they keep her family fed. She weaves flax into linen on a simple loom, her fingers nimble, creating cloth for clothes or bedding. At night, she mends worn tunics by the light of an oil lamp, its wick flickering in a clay dish. Children are her constant companions. A mother might have 6 or more, though many die young from fever or hunger. She carries her youngest in a sling while working, teaching older ones to fetch water or herd geese. Pregnancy is frequent, but childbirth is dangerous. Midwives use herbs like honey or garlic to ease labor, but without clean tools, infections are common. Women pray to Bes, the dwarf god of childbirth, for safety, placing small statues in their homes. The Nile's bounty helps, with fish or lotus roots adding to meals, but malnutrition weakens many, making illness a constant shadow. In cities like Thebes or Memphis, life is different. A craftsman's wife lives in a crowded street. Her home, a 2-room mud brick with a flat roof for sleeping in summer's heat. She helps her husband, perhaps a potter, by mixing clay or painting jars with lotus designs. Some women sell bread or beer at markets, their stalls shaded by reed mats. They barter for copper tools or linen, their voices mingling with the hum of traders. Literacy is rare, but some learn to count for trade, scratching numbers on papyrus or clay. Their days are long, ending with a meal of bread, fish, and beer under the stars. Noble women live in grand villas with painted walls and gardens of palms and sycamores. A noble woman wakes to servants preparing her breakfast, bread, figs, and wine. She oversees the household, checking grain stores or ordering linen from weavers. Her education, learned from scribes or priests, includes reading hieroglyphs and managing accounts. She wears fine linen dresses, dyed blue or red, and jewelry of gold and turquoise. Her role is to host feasts, strengthening alliances, or pray for her husband, a high official or priest at the temple. The pharaoh's court is another world. Queens and princesses like Nefertiti or Cleopatra wield power but face danger. A queen might co-rule, her image carved on temple walls, or manage royal estates. Marriage is political, tying families to the throne. Love exists, but duty rules. A queen's fertility is vital, as heirs secure the dynasty. She prays to Hathor, goddess of love, for children, offering gold or incense at altars. Court life is lush. Banquets with roasted duck, music from harps. But intrigue looms, with rivals plotting for favor. Religion touches every life. Egyptians worship gods like Ra, the sun god, or Isis, the mother goddess. Farmers offer grain at village shrines, simple mud brick platforms with statues. City women visit grand temples, their columns painted with lotus flowers, to pray for health or love. Noble women donate jewelry to gods, their gifts ensuring divine favor. Priests, mostly men, lead rituals, but women serve as priestesses, singing hymns or shaking sistrums. Metal rattles sacred to Hathor. Faith is daily, with prayers at dawn or amulets worn for protection. Mysteries define Egypt's allure. The pyramids, built with millions of limestone blocks, stand as tombs for pharaohs, their secrets guarded by priests. Women, though rarely builders, contribute as mourners, chanting at funerals or preparing offerings. Stories of hidden chambers or cursed tombs whisper through villages, fueling awe. The afterlife is real to all. Women prepare food or linen for burials, believing the dead need them in the next world. Magic is part of life, with spells written on papyrus to heal or protect, often used by women for sick children or barrenness. Daily life has small joys. A farmer's wife shares beer with neighbors, laughing under a sycamore tree. A city woman dances at a festival, her linen dress swaying to flutes. A noblewoman plays a board game, senate, with her children, their laughter echoing in a garden. These moments, fleeting but warm, balance the toil. The Nile's rhythm, flood, planting, harvest, guides their days, its waters a constant hum in the background. Challenges are many. Floods fail, leaving fields dry. Disease spreads in crowded cities, with no cure for fevers or infections. Women work through exhaustion, their bodies worn from labor or childbirth. Yet resilience shines. A farmer's wife saves seeds for next year's crop. A city woman trades cleverly to feed her family. A noblewoman negotiates with priests to secure her son's future. Their strength, quiet but fierce, holds their world together. As the Nile reflects the first stars, picture the woman by her fire, her hands still, her day done. The city hums softly. The villa grows quiet. Let this ancient world, with its struggles and mysteries, cradle you into sleep. We'll continue this tale, exploring love, work, and more in the parts to come. The Nile flows gently under a starlit sky, its waters lapping against the banks of a quiet Egyptian village. Inside a mud brick hut, a woman adjusts a linen veil, her heart quickening as she prepares for a betrothal. In a bustling city, another woman shares a smile with her husband over a meal of bread and dates. In a grand villa, a noblewoman offers a prayer to Hathor, the goddess of love, for her marriage's strength. Love and marriage in ancient Egypt were woven with tradition, duty, and moments of tenderness, shaping the lives of women across the land. In this second part, we explore how women, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles, navigated the bonds of love, the rituals of marriage, and the joys and struggles of family life. Let the soft rhythm of their stories carry you toward a peaceful sleep. In ancient Egypt, marriage was a cornerstone of life, less about romance and more about family, property, and survival. For a farmer's daughter, marriage came early, often by 16. Parents arranged the match, choosing a husband from the village. Perhaps a neighbor's son who shared their fields. The betrothal was simple, a promise made before kin, with gifts like a copper ring or a basket of grain. No grand ceremony marked the union. The couple simply moved into a shared hut, their lives blending with the Nile's rhythm. The bride brought a small dowry, pots, linen, or a goat, to help start the household, her hands already skilled in cooking or weaving. Once married, a peasant woman's life centered on partnership. She and her husband worked side by side, planting barley or harvesting flax under the sun's heat. At home, she kneaded dough for flatbread, stirred lentil pottage, and wove cloth for tunics. Their home was modest, a single room with reed mats and a clay hearth. Privacy was scarce, with children or kin sleeping nearby. Love was practical, shown in shared tasks. Her husband fixing a broken plow, her mending his sandals. At night, they might sit under the stars, sipping beer, their laughter soft against the Nile's murmur. Children were a marriage's heart. A peasant woman often bore many, hoping some would survive infancy. Pregnancy was frequent, but childbirth was risky, with midwives using honey or lotus flowers to ease pain. The couple prayed to Bes, the protector god, placing his amulet near the birthing mat. Babies were swaddled in linen, carried in slings while mothers worked. Older children helped, fetching water or herding geese, their small hands learning fast. Meals were simple: bread, onions, fish from the Nile. But shared with care, the family gathered on the floor, their bond a quiet strength. In cities like Memphis, marriage had a different flavor. A craftsman's wife, perhaps married to a potter or scribe, lived in a busier world. Her match was often arranged, but could stem from affection met at a market or festival. The couple exchanged gifts: a necklace of faience beads for her, a carved stool for him. They lived in a mud-brick house with a rooftop for cool evenings, their days filled with trade. She helped her husband, painting jars or selling beer at market, her voice sharp as she bartered. Love showed in small acts, her brewing his favorite beer, him bringing home a lotus flower. City women had more freedom in marriage. Egyptian law allowed women to own property, unlike many ancient cultures. A wife could keep her dowry, land, jewelry, or tools, and use it as she wished. Contracts, written on papyrus, outlined her rights, ensuring she could divorce if mistreated. Divorce was rare but accepted, with women returning to their families or remarrying. A city woman might leave her husband for neglect, taking her children and goods. This independence gave her confidence, her steps sure as she walked through crowded streets. Noble women's marriages were grand but tied to power. A noble girl was betrothed young, often at 12, to seal alliances between families or with the pharaoh's court. Her dowry was vast: land, gold, or slaves, presented at a lavish feast with music and roasted duck. The wedding was a public event, held in a villa's garden, with guests in fine linen and turquoise jewelry. The bride moved to her husband's home, her role to bear heirs and manage servants. Love was secondary to duty, but some couples grew close, sharing games of senet or walks by the Nile. A noblewoman's life revolved around her household. She oversaw weavers, cooks, and gardeners, ensuring the villa ran smoothly. Her children were raised by nurses, but she taught them manners or prayers, preparing sons for court and daughters for marriage. Childbirth was safer with skilled midwives and better food. Dates, figs, wine, but still dangerous. She prayed to Hathor, offering incense at a gilded altar for fertility and health. Her husband, often a priest or official, might be away, leaving her to manage estates, her decisions carved on papyrus. Royal women, like queens or princesses, lived in a world of splendor and peril. A queen like Nefertiti married for politics, her union with the pharaoh strengthening his rule. She was a partner, advising on trade or war, her image painted beside his on temple walls. Love could bloom, as seen in tomb carvings of pharaohs and queens holding hands. But rivalry was fierce. Other wives or concubines vied for favor. A queen's fertility was crucial, her sons heirs to the throne. She offered gold to Isis, praying for children, her heart heavy with the weight of dynasty. Family life brought warmth across classes. A peasant family shared stories under a sycamore tree, children playing with clay toys. A city family ate on their rooftop, the Nile's breeze cooling them as they laughed. A noble family played music, the mother's harp notes drifting through the villa. Festivals, like the Feast of Opet, united families, with women dancing in linen dresses, offering bread to gods. These moments, though brief, were treasures in a life of toil. Challenges tested love. Droughts left fields barren, forcing couples to ration food. Disease took children, leaving mothers to mourn quietly as they worked. Noble women faced court plots, their marriages strained by politics. Divorce, though legal, brought shame, especially for peasants with little to fall back on. Yet women endured. A farmer's wife saved grain for her husband's return. A city woman rebuilt after a flood, her market stall stronger. A noblewoman negotiated peace, her words calming rivals. The church, or rather the temples, shaped marriage. Priests blessed unions, tying them to gods like Hathor or Osiris. Women were equals in law but expected to honor husbands, their fidelity praised in tomb inscriptions. Infidelity was rare, punished by social scorn or loss of property. Yet love shone in small ways. A husband carving a wife's name on a stone, a wife brewing beer for a festival, their bond a quiet anchor. As the Nile reflects the moonlight, picture the woman adjusting her veil, her betrothal gift glinting. The city hums with evening chatter. The villa's lamps glow softly. Their love, woven with duty and care, holds their world steady. Let this image settle in your mind, guiding you into sleep as we prepare for the next part of our tale. The Nile glimmers under the early morning sun, its waters a lifeline to the fields of an Egyptian village. A woman steps out of her mud brick hut, her hands already dusted with flour as she prepares to grind wheat. In a bustling city market, another woman arranges clay jars of beer, her voice calling softly to passers-by. In a grand villa, a noblewoman checks a basket of freshly woven linen, her eyes sharp for quality. Work defined the lives of ancient Egyptian women, from dawn's first light to the quiet of night. In this third part, we explore the labor of women, farmers, artisans, and nobles, whose hands shaped their world through skill and endurance. Let the gentle rhythm of their tasks lull you into a peaceful sleep. For peasant women, work was the pulse of survival. Their day began before sunrise, the air cool in their simple homes of mud brick and straw. A woman knelt by her quern, grinding emmer wheat into flour for flatbread, the staple of every meal. Her hands moved in steady circles, the stones scrape a familiar sound. She baked bread in a clay oven, its heat warming the hut, and mixed pottage with lentils or onions from her garden. Breakfast was quick, bread and beer shared with her family before they scattered to their tasks. Fieldwork followed. Peasant women joined their husbands in the Nile's fertile fields, where annual floods left rich black soil. In spring, they planted barley, flax, or sesame, their fingers pressing seeds into the earth. Summer meant weeding, pulling stray plants under the blazing sun, their linen tunics clinging to their skin. During harvest, they swung sickles to cut stalks, tying them into bundles for threshing. Some gleaned leftover grain, a right for the poor to feed their families. This labor was hard, with sweat and aching backs, but it filled granaries and paid taxes to the pharaoh. Beyond fields, women tended animals. A peasant woman milked goats or cows, her wooden bucket filling slowly, the milk used for cheese or traded at market. She fed chickens, collecting eggs in woven baskets, and let pigs root in the yard. Her garden, a small patch by the hut, grew garlic, leeks, or cucumbers, vital when harvests were lean. She watered it with Nile water, carried in heavy jars balanced on her shoulder. These tasks, though repetitive, were the family's lifeline. Each egg or leaf a small victory. Weaving was a constant chore. Women spun flax into thread using a spindle, their fingers twisting fibers by firelight. They wove this thread on wooden looms, creating linen for tunics, sheets, or sails. The cloth was dyed with plants, madder for red, woad for blue, its colors brightening village life. Some women sold extra linen at local markets, bartering for fish or tools. Laundry was another task, scrubbing clothes in the Nile with sand or natron, a natural soap, then laying them on reeds to dry. In cities like Thebes or Memphis, women's work was more varied. A craftsman's wife helped her husband, perhaps a potter or jeweler. She mixed clay for pots, painted them with lotus patterns, or polished turquoise beads for necklaces. Some women ran market stalls selling bread, beer, or vegetables under reed awnings. Their voices mingled with the hum of traders, bargaining for copper or spices. Brewing beer was a common trade, as water was often unsafe. Women soaked barley, fermented it with dates, and poured it into clay jars, their brew a staple in every home. City women also worked as servants in wealthy homes, cleaning floors, grinding grain, or carrying water. Some were skilled artisans, weaving fine linen or crafting papyrus scrolls. In wealthier families, women learned basic accounting, marking sales on clay tablets or papyrus. These skills gave them pride, their hands steady as they weighed goods or counted coins. Markets were lively, with women trading gossip as they sold fish or figs, their stalls shaded against the sun's glare. Noble women's work was less physical but equally demanding. They managed large households in villas with painted walls and shaded gardens. A noble woman oversaw servants, cooks preparing duck, weavers making linen, gardeners tending lotus pools. She checked granaries, ensuring enough barley or wheat for the year, and ordered goods from merchants, like wine from the Delta. When her husband, perhaps a priest or official, was away, she ran estates, collecting taxes from tenant farmers or settling disputes over land. Some noble women served as priestesses, a prestigious role. They worked in temples, singing hymns to Hathor or Isis, shaking sistrums or offering wine at altars. Their linen robes, dyed with saffron, glowed in torchlight. They also managed temple lands, their decisions recorded by scribes. This work, blending faith and power, gave them influence, their names carved on stone stelae. Women like Hatshepsut, a pharaoh, oversaw vast projects like obelisks or trade expeditions, their legacy enduring in stone. Work followed the Nile's seasons. Summer floods paused field labor, so women focused on weaving or brewing. Autumn brought planting, winter harvesting, and spring gleaning. Markets thrived after harvests, with women selling surplus grain or cloth. Noble women planned feasts for festivals, like the Feast of Opet, their villas alive with music and food. Each season demanded adaptability, learned through years of sun and soil. Tools were simple but essential. Peasant women used wooden sickles, clay jars, and stone querns, their surfaces worn smooth. City women had scales for trade or needles for sewing. Noble women used papyrus and reed pens for accounts, their seals marking authority. These tools, passed from mother to daughter, tied women to their work, their hands steady with purpose. Health shaped labor. Poor diets, mostly bread and beer, left peasant women tired, their bodies strained by lifting or bending. Injuries, like cuts from sickles, were treated with honey or garlic, but infections lingered. City women faced crowded streets, risking fever or plague. Noble women, with better food, still suffered from childbirth or stress. All relied on herbs, mint for digestion, lotus for pain, their knowledge a quiet strength. Challenges were constant. Droughts dried fields, leaving women to ration grain. Taxes to the pharaoh took much of the harvest, forcing careful planning. City women faced cheating traders, yet bartered fiercely. Noble women navigated court politics, their decisions risking favor or exile, yet resilience shone. A farmer's wife replanted after floods. A market woman rebuilt her stall after fire. A noble woman secured her family's lands with clever deals. As the day fades, picture the woman setting down her quern, her flour-dusted hands resting. The market grows quiet. The villa's lamps dim. Her work, though endless, sustains her world. Let this image settle softly, carrying you into sleep as we prepare for the next part of our tale. The Nile shimmers under a twilight sky, its gentle ripples reflecting the first stars over an Egyptian village. Inside a mud brick hut, a woman kneels before a small statue of Isis, her hands offering a loaf of bread. In a bustling city, another woman walks to a grand temple, her linen dress swaying as she carries a lotus flower. In a noble villa, a woman lights an oil lamp at a gilded shrine, whispering prayers for her family's safety. Religion was the soul of ancient Egypt, guiding women through daily rituals, festivals, and sacred duties. In this fourth part, we explore how women, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles, wove faith into their lives, seeking protection and meaning in a world ruled by gods. Let the soft cadence of their devotion soothe you into sleep. For peasant women, religion was a quiet, constant presence. Their day began with a prayer to Ra, the sun god, as his light warmed their fields. Their homes held small shrines, mud brick shelves with clay statues of Bes, the protector of families, or Hathor, the goddess of love. A woman might place a fig or a piece of bread before these figures, asking for a good harvest or safe birth. These offerings were simple, shaped by their meager means, but heartfelt, tying their lives to the divine. At night, she lit a clay lamp, its flicker casting shadows on the statue, her whispers blending with the Nile's hum. The village shrine, a modest platform of stone or mud, was a gathering place. Women came after field work, their hands dusty from weeding, to pray for rain or health. They left wildflowers or small amulets, believing the gods listened. Festivals, like the Feast of Opet, brought the village together. Women baked extra bread, flavored with dates, and danced to flutes under starlight, honoring Amun. These moments, though rare, lifted their spirits, their laughter mingling with prayers. The gods were near, in the Nile's flood or the harvest's yield, guiding their toil. In cities like Thebes, religion was grander but no less personal. Women visited towering temples, their columns carved with lotus flowers and painted in red and blue. A city woman, perhaps a potter's wife, brought a clay jar of beer as an offering to Isis, praying for her child's fever to break. Temples buzzed with priests chanting hymns, but women had roles too. Some served as chantresses, singing to Hathor or shaking sistrums, metal rattles that pleased the gods. Their voices, soft but clear, echoed in stone halls, their linen robes glowing in torchlight. City women also joined processions during festivals. At the beautiful Feast of the Valley, they walked to tombs, carrying bread and flowers to honor the dead. These events were both solemn and joyful, with families sharing meals by the Nile. Women wore amulets, ankhs for life, scarabs for rebirth, tucked under their dresses, believing they warded off evil. Magic was part of faith, with spells on papyrus to heal or protect. A woman might chant a spell over a sick child, her words learned from her mother, blending hope with ancient words. Noble women's faith was lavish, reflecting their wealth. They worshipped in private chapels within villas, their altars adorned with gold and turquoise. A noblewoman offered wine or incense to Osiris, praying for her husband's success at court. She owned fine amulets, like jade scarabs or lapis ankhs, crafted by skilled jewelers. Some served as high priestesses, a role of power. They led temple rituals, pouring milk before statues or burning myrrh, their actions recorded on stone. Women like Hatshepsut, a pharaoh, built temples to Amun, their names carved alongside gods. Convents, though not like medieval Europe's, existed in temple complexes. Women dedicated to Hathor or Isis lived there, weaving sacred linens or tending ritual gardens. These women, often from noble families, studied hymns or learned to read hieroglyphs, their lives blending devotion and learning. They cared for the poor, offering bread or bandages, their work a bridge between gods and people. Their voices, singing in dawn rituals, carried over the Nile, a sound of peace and purpose. The afterlife was a shared belief. Women prepared offerings for the dead, bread, beer, or linen, believing they eased the journey to the field of reeds, a paradise of eternal harvests. Peasant women wrapped loved ones in simple cloth, while noble women commissioned painted coffins. Mummification, though costly, was a craft some women helped with, preparing oils or bandages. They chanted at funerals, their voices mourning yet hopeful. Trusting Osiris judged the dead fairly. Faith brought challenges. Temples demanded offerings, straining peasant budgets. A woman might give her last loaf, hoping for divine favor. Priests, mostly men, held power, and women's roles, though respected, were limited. Heresy, like the worship of Aten under Akhenaten, disrupted traditions, leaving women to adapt to new gods. Yet faith gave strength. A farmer's wife prayed through drought, her amulet clutched tightly. A city woman offered lotus flowers during plague, her hope unshaken. A noble woman funded a shrine, her legacy enduring. Daily rituals grounded women. A peasant woman swept her shrine at dawn, her prayer soft as she lit a lamp. A city woman paused at a temple, her offering a small fish. A noble woman read hymns by candlelight, her voice steady. These acts, small but sacred, tied them to the eternal. Festivals, like Bastet's feast, brought joy, with women dancing in cat masks, their movements light despite weary bodies. Seasons shaped worship. Summer floods paused work, so women visited shrines, praying for fertile fields. Winter harvests meant offerings of grain, shared with gods and neighbors. Spring festivals celebrated rebirth, with women weaving garlands of lotus. These cycles, tied to the Nile, made faith a living rhythm, as constant as breath. As the night deepens, picture the woman by her Isis statue, her offering placed, her prayer fading into silence. The temple's torches dim, the villa's shrine grows still. Her faith, a quiet anchor, holds her world steady. Let this image cradle you, guiding you into sleep as we prepare for the next part of our tale. The Nile's gentle ripples reflect the dawn's first light, casting a soft glow over an Egyptian village. Inside a mud brick hut, a woman crushes garlic in a clay bowl, her hands steady as she prepares a salve for her child's fever. In a bustling city, another woman wraps a linen bandage around a neighbor's arm, her touch gentle but sure. In a noble villa, a woman sips a tonic of honey and lotus, seeking relief from a lingering cough. Health was a constant concern in ancient Egypt, where women faced illness, injury, and childbirth with limited tools but deep knowledge. In this fifth part, we explore how women, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles, cared for themselves and others, blending herbs, faith, and resilience. Let the soothing rhythm of their healing arts guide you into a peaceful sleep. For peasant women, health was fragile, tied to their hard lives. Their diet was simple: flatbread, onions, and beer, with occasional fish or dates from the Nile. This lack of variety left them weak, especially during pregnancy or nursing. Long days in fields, planting barley or harvesting flax, strained their backs and hands. Cuts from sickles or burns from ovens were common, and without clean water, infections spread easily. The Nile's floods brought mosquitoes, carrying fevers that struck villages. During plagues, like those recorded in ancient texts, women nursed the sick, risking their lives to save kin. Childbirth was the greatest danger. Peasant women gave birth on reed mats in their huts, aided by midwives who used experience, not formal training. Midwives applied honey to ease labor or burned resin to calm mothers. But complications like bleeding or breech births were deadly. Women prayed to Bes, the dwarf god, placing his clay figurines near the birthing bed. Many bore 6 or more children, but half might die young from hunger or disease. Malnutrition made recovery slow, with mothers returning to fields days after birth, their bodies weary but determined. Healing relied on herbs and tradition. Peasant women grew garlic, coriander, and aloe in small gardens, using them for remedies passed down by mothers. Garlic poultices fought infections, aloe soothed burns, and mint tea eased stomach pain. A woman might wrap a sprig of willow in linen, tying it to a child's wrist to reduce fever, believing it held divine power. Village healers, often older women, were respected, mixing salves or chanting spells over the sick. These women risked suspicion if cures failed, as magic and healing blurred in the eyes of some. In cities like Memphis, health challenges grew with crowds, dirty streets spread disease, and women, as caregivers, faced plague or dysentery while tending families. Their diets were better: fish, figs, or lentils from markets, but still lacked balance. City women worked long hours, weaving linen or selling beer, their feet swollen from standing. Some could afford apothecaries, who sold costly remedies like frankincense for pain or myrrh for wounds. Others relied on home cures, boiling herbs or using natron, a salt from the desert, to clean cuts. City women also served as healers. Some ran stalls selling herbal tonics, their clay jars labeled with simple marks. Others worked as midwives, delivering babies in cramped homes. Skilled women, like those mentioned in papyrus records, treated fevers or broken bones with bandages and prayers. Male physicians existed, trained in temple schools, but women's knowledge was valued, especially for childbirth or women's ailments. A city healer might use a papyrus scroll with recipes, like honey and onion for coughs, her hands quick from practice. Noble women had better health, but faced similar risks. Their diets included meat, wine, and pomegranates, strengthening them against some illnesses. They summoned physicians from temple schools, who used tools like bronze scalpels or checked pulses, but treatments often failed. Childbirth remained perilous, even with skilled midwives and clean linens. Noble women used expensive cures: rose oil for skin, saffron for fatigue. Their villas stocked with imported herbs. They bathed in Nile water, heated in clay tubs, scented with lotus to soothe aches. Temples were centers of healing. Priestesses, often noble women, worked in sanatoriums, caring for the sick with herbal pastes or sacred water from the Nile. They prayed to Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of healing, offering incense for cures. Some, like the women of the Temple of Hathor, grew medicinal plants: juniper for infections, chamomile for sleep in shaded gardens. Their knowledge, recorded on papyrus, included recipes for salves or spells to banish illness, blending faith with skill. Hygiene was basic but vital. Peasant women washed in the Nile, using natron to scrub skin or hair. City women had clay basins, their water carried by servants. Noble women bathed in perfumed oils, their servants combing their hair with bone combs. Monthly cycles were managed with linen pads, washed and reused, though the temple barred women from rituals during this time, citing impurity. Dental care meant chewing fennel seeds or rubbing teeth with natron, but toothaches were common, especially for peasants eating gritty bread. Mental health was rarely addressed. The Egyptians saw sadness or visions as divine signs, not illness. A woman feeling low might burn myrrh at a shrine, praying to Hathor for peace. Noble women, stressed by court life, used lavender or lotus tonics to calm nerves. Peasant women leaned on village talk, sharing worries while weaving or fetching water. Their community a quiet balm. Seasons affected health. Summer floods brought fevers. Winter chills caused coughs. Women dried herbs in autumn, storing mint or coriander for lean months. During plagues, they burned resin to purify air, or wore scarab amulets for protection, though these offered little shield. Faith was a healer. Women prayed to Imhotep, the deified physician, leaving offerings at his shrines. Daily care was woven into life. A peasant woman stirred a garlic salve by firelight, her child asleep nearby. A city woman bandaged a wound at her market stall, her hands steady. A noble woman sipped a tonic in her garden, lotus blooms swaying. These acts, small but vital, kept families alive. Challenges were many. Disease spread fast with no antibiotics. Childbirth claimed lives, leaving families broken. Healers faced blame if patients died. Their herbs deemed sorcery. Yet women endured. A farmer's wife worked through fever. A city healer treated plague victims. A noblewoman funded temple hospitals. Their resilience, rooted in care, shone bright. As the night settles, picture the woman by her clay bowl, her salve ready, her hands resting. The city hums softly, the villa's lamps dim. Her healing, quiet but strong, holds her world together. Let this image cradle you, carrying you into sleep as we prepare for the next part of our tale. The Nile's waters glimmer under a moonlit sky, casting a silver glow over a quiet Egyptian village. Inside a mud brick hut, a woman shows her daughter how to weave flax into linen, her hands guiding the shuttle with care. In a bustling city, another woman scratches numbers on a clay tablet, teaching her apprentice to tally market goods. In a noble villa, a woman reads hieroglyphs on a papyrus scroll, her voice soft as she shares tales of gods. Education in ancient Egypt was rarely formal for women, but knowledge was passed through hands, words, and quiet moments of learning. In this sixth part, we explore how women, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles, gained skills and wisdom in a world of limited schooling. Let the gentle flow of their learning soothe you into sleep. For peasant women, education was practical, rooted in the rhythms of survival. From childhood, girls learned by watching their mothers. At 5, a girl carried water from the Nile, her small jar balanced carefully, mimicking her mother's steps. By 10, she ground wheat with a quern, her hands learning the stone's weight. These tasks, baking bread, planting seeds, or milking goats, were lessons taught without books. Mother showed her daughter how to mix coriander for a salve, or weave linen on a loom. Each motion a quiet transfer of knowledge. These skills, honed by repetition, ensured the family's survival. Literacy was rare among peasants. Papyrus and ink were costly, reserved for scribes or priests. The temple taught that women needed faith and work, not letters. Yet some learned basic counting to trade eggs or cloth at market, using fingers or clay marks. Storytelling was their school. By firelight, a woman told tales of Isis and Osiris, her voice weaving lessons of loyalty or courage. Children listened, their eyes heavy, learning the gods' names or the Nile's seasons. These stories, passed down through generations, were a peasant girl's history, rich with meaning. In cities like Memphis or Thebes, education was more varied. Women in artisan families learned trades alongside their husbands or fathers. A potter's wife taught her daughter to shape clay jars, painting them with lotus designs. A brewer's daughter learned to ferment barley, measuring dates to sweeten the beer. At markets, women mastered bargaining, counting coins or weighing grain with scales. Some learned to mark simple hieroglyphs, like numbers or names, on papyrus or clay for trade records. These skills, taught by doing, gave city women confidence, their hands quick and sure. City women also passed knowledge through apprenticeships. A weaver might take a young girl under her wing, showing her how to thread a loom or dye linen blue with indigo. In wealthier homes, women learned basic accounting, scratching sales on tablets to track profits. While formal schools were for boys training as scribes, some women, especially in merchant families, picked up reading or writing in the local tongue. Papyrus records from Deir el-Medina show women signing contracts, their marks proof of practical learning. Noble women had the most access to education, though it was tied to their roles. From childhood, They studied with scribes or priests, learning hieroglyphs to read hymns or manage estates. A noble girl, perhaps 10, sat in a villa's garden, copying signs on papyrus under a tutor's eye. She learned prayers to Hathor or accounts for grain stores, her quill scratching softly. Some studied music, playing harps or sistrums for temple rituals, their notes echoing in courtyards. These lessons prepared them to run households or serve as priestesses, blending duty with skill. Temples were centers of learning for women. Priestesses, often noble, studied sacred texts, memorizing hymns or rituals for Isis or Amun. They learned to read omens, like the flight of birds, or mix incense for offerings. In temple schools, women like those in the House of Life copied medical texts, recording cures for fevers or childbirth pains. Their knowledge, written on papyrus, included recipes for salves or spells to ward off illness. Women like Pesachet, a rare female physician from the Old Kingdom, oversaw healers, her title Lady Overseer carved in stone. Education varied by region. In Lower Egypt, near the Delta, trade with foreign lands brought Greek or Phoenician scripts, which some city women learned for commerce. In Upper Egypt, temple traditions kept learning sacred, focused on hieroglyphs and gods. Women in royal courts like Cleopatra studied multiple languages, their minds sharp for diplomacy. These differences shaped how women learned, from market tallies to royal decrees. Daily learning was woven into work. A peasant girl watched her mother knead dough, learning to measure flour by hand. A city woman showed her daughter to weigh fish, her scale steady in the market's hum. A noble woman read to her children, her voice tracing tales of pharaohs. These moments, small but steady, built knowledge over years. Women also learned from each other. Village healers shared herb recipes, market women traded bargaining tips, and priestesses taught novices hymns, their voices a quiet bond. Challenges limited learning. Papyrus was scarce, and scribes guarded their skills. Peasants had no time for study, their days filled with labor. City women faced restrictions from male-dominated trades, their roles confined to simpler tasks. Noble women's education ended at marriage, their focus shifting to villas or temples. Yet women found ways to learn. They memorized prayers, bartered for papyrus, or listened to priests, piecing together wisdom. Seasons shaped learning. Winter, with fields quiet, was for teaching weaving or storytelling by firelight. Summer floods paused farm work, so mothers taught daughters to brew beer. Festivals, like Bastet's feast, brought lessons in dance or ritual, with women practicing steps or offerings. These cycles made learning a living rhythm, tied to the Nile's flow. Resilience defined their pursuit. A peasant woman taught her daughter to count eggs, ensuring she could trade. A city woman scratched numbers by lamplight, mastering accounts. A noble woman studied hieroglyphs, her knowledge guiding her household. Some, like Merit Ptah, a healer from ancient texts, left legacies in medicine, their wisdom aiding generations. As the night grows still, picture the woman by her loom, her daughter watching, the shuttle's rhythm steady. The market's bustle fades, the villa's lamps dim. Her learning, quiet but vital, shapes her world. Let this image settle softly, carrying you into sleep. As we prepare for the next part of our tale, the Nile flows quietly under a starlit sky, its waters a lifeline to an Egyptian village bathed in moonlight. Inside a mud brick hut, a woman counts her woven linen, preparing to settle a debt with a neighbor. In a bustling city, another woman stands before a scribe, her voice firm as she claims her share of a market stall. In a grand villa, a noblewoman seals a papyrus contract with a wax stamp, her eyes sharp with purpose. The law in ancient Egypt governed women's lives, offering rights rare for the ancient world, but tempered by custom and power. In this seventh part, we explore how women, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles navigated legal systems, from village disputes to royal decrees, to secure their place. Let the gentle rhythm of their stories guide you into a peaceful sleep. For peasant women, the law was rooted in village customs, enforced by elders or local officials. Disputes were settled in open-air gatherings, often under a sycamore tree, where families brought grievances over land, livestock, or debts. A woman might stand before the village, her basket of grain in hand, explaining a broken fence or a stolen goat. These hearings followed unwritten rules, passed down through generations, favoring fairness but often swayed by the local noble's word. Papyrus records from Deir el-Medina show women arguing their cases, like a farmer's wife claiming her neighbor's cow trampled her crops, her voice steady despite the crowd. Peasant women had surprising rights. Unlike many ancient cultures, Egyptian law allowed women to own property, even when married. A woman could inherit land from her parents, keeping it separate from her husband's holdings. She might own a small field or a share of a granary, using it to grow barley or trade for tools. If widowed, she managed her husband's land until her sons were grown, paying taxes to the pharaoh with grain or linen. Divorce was legal, and a woman could leave a neglectful husband, taking her dowry, pots, cloth, or jewelry, back to her family's hut. Marriage laws protected women. Contracts, often verbal in villages, outlined a couple's duties. A husband promised food and shelter, while a wife brought her dowry, like a loom or a cow. If he failed her, she could appeal to elders who might grant separation. Papyrus texts describe women winning support payments, like a share of grain, after divorce. These rights gave peasant women leverage, though poverty limited their choices. A woman might barter extra bread to pay a fine, her hands quick as she traded at market. In cities like Thebes, the law was more formal, written on papyrus by scribes. Women traded in bustling markets, selling beer or linen, and could sue for unpaid debts in local courts. A brewer might demand payment from a cheating merchant, her case heard by a city official. Egyptian law granted women personhood, letting them sign contracts or own shops. Widows, especially, thrived, running stalls or workshops. Records from Memphis show a woman named Naonakte bequeathing her goods to her children, her will ensuring her daughters inherited equally with sons. City women also faced guild-like rules. Artisans, like weavers or potters, had associations that set prices or quality standards. Women joined these, especially in brewing or textile trades, but men often held leadership. Still, women negotiated cleverly, bartering for better terms or pooling resources with other traders. A market woman might scribble her mark on a contract, her stall's profits proof of her skill. Courts, held in stone buildings, were busy with women claiming rights to land or goods, their voices rising above the city's hum. Noble women wielded law with power. They inherited vast estates, fields, orchards, or slaves, protected by royal decrees. A noble widow, like T of the New Kingdom, managed lands, collecting taxes in grain or wine. She could sue in royal courts, her papyrus petitions sealed with wax. Marriage contracts were detailed, listing her dowry, gold, linen, or cattle, and ensuring her wealth if widowed. Noble women also acted as guardians for young heirs, ruling estates until sons came of age. their authority carved in stone. Royal women, like queens, shaped law itself. A queen like Hatshepsut issued decrees, granting land to temples or trade rights to merchants. Her word, backed by divine status, was law. Yet court intrigues threatened her. Rivals could challenge her son's claim, forcing her to secure allies with gifts or marriages. Papyrus records show queens like Nefertari negotiating with foreign kings, their letters sealing peace. These women, though powerful, walked a delicate line, their influence tied to the pharaoh's favor. Temples played a legal role. Priestesses, often noble, managed temple lands, their rights written in sacred texts. They settled disputes among workers or allocated grain for offerings, their decisions final. Women also appealed to temple oracles, asking gods to judge cases. Like a stolen necklace or a broken contract, the temple's word was divine, and women knelt before statues, offering lotus flowers for justice. Laws varied by region. In the Delta, trade with Greeks gave women more contract rights. In Upper Egypt, temple laws were strict, tying land to priests. Women adapted, learning local rules to protect their fields or shops. Divorce laws were generous. Women kept dowries and could remarry, but social pressure kept many in unhappy unions, especially among peasants. Daily life met law in small ways. A peasant woman paid taxes with grain, her basket weighed by a scribe. A city woman signed a trade deal, her mark on papyrus. A noblewoman checked estate records, her seal binding orders. These acts, routine but vital, tied women to Egypt's legal web. Challenges were real. Courts favored men or the wealthy, and scribes could demand bribes. Illiteracy forced women to rely on others to write petitions, risking errors. Yet resilience shone. A farmer's wife bartered to settle a fine. A city woman won her case with sharp words. A noblewoman secured her land with clever alliances. Some, like the scribe's wife Merit, left wills ensuring their daughters' futures, their wisdom etched in ink. Seasons shaped legal life. Autumn harvests brought tax disputes, settled under village trees. Spring markets saw women signing trade deals. Winter, with fields quiet, was for writing wills. Women prepared, saving grain or weaving extra cloth to pay scribes. Festivals, like the Feast of Amun, paused disputes, with women offering bread for peace. As the night settles, picture the woman by her hut, her linen counted, her debt paid. The city's courts grow quiet, the villa's lamps dim. Her rights, hard won, anchor her world. Let this image cradle you, carrying you into sleep as we prepare for the next part of our tale. The Nile's waters shimmer under a twilight glow, their gentle flow a lullaby for an Egyptian village nestled in the dusk. Inside a mud brick hut, a woman shares a clay jug of beer with her neighbor, their laughter soft by the fire's warmth. In a bustling city market, another woman trades a loaf of bread with a fellow vendor, their smiles bright in the fading light. In a noble villa, a woman gathers her ladies to weave garlands for a festival, their voices mingling in the garden's shade. Community was the heartbeat of ancient Egyptian life, binding women through shared work, faith, and moments of joy. In this 8th part, we explore how women, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles, built networks of support to face life's challenges. Let the soothing rhythm of their bonds guide you into a peaceful sleep. In villages, community was survival. Peasant women worked together, their lives entwined with the Nile's seasons. During planting, they gathered in fields, sowing barley or flax, their hands moving in unison as they sang soft chants to Hathor. Harvests brought them closer, cutting wheat with sickles, sharing water jugs under the sun's heat. A woman might lend a basket of lentils to a neighbor whose crop failed, knowing help would return in lean times. This unspoken pact, forged in toil, kept families fed when floods or droughts struck. Village life centered on shared spaces. The well, a stone-lined pit by the Nile, was where women met, hauling water in clay jars while trading news of births or storms. The communal oven, heated with shared wood, baked their bread, its warmth drawing chatter about crops or children. Sunday gatherings at the village shrine, a simple mud brick platform, united them in prayer to Osiris or Bes. Women knelt, offering wildflowers or bread, their voices blending in hope for health or rain. These moments, though brief, wove a web of trust. Older women were pillars of this community. A grandmother might watch children while mothers worked fields, her stories of gods keeping them quiet. Healers, often widows, shared herb recipes, teaching younger women to mix garlic for fevers or aloe for burns. When disputes arose, over a stray goat or a broken fence, women mediated, their calm words settling tempers over shared beer. Festivals, like the Feast of the Valley, brought joy, with women baking date-sweetened bread and dancing under starlight, their steps light despite weary bodies. In cities like Thebes, community thrived in markets and streets. Women vendors selling beer or linen formed tight bonds. A brewer might trade jars with a baker, their talk turning to prices or priests. These exchanges built trust, vital in competitive markets. Women joined religious groups like devotees of Isis, pooling grain or cloth to feed the poor. At festivals, they marched in processions, carrying lotus flowers to temples, their voices raised in hymns. These groups gave city women strength, their shared prayers, a shield against hardship. City women also supported each other in trade. A weaver shared her loom with a neighbor, teaching her to thread fine linen. Widows running stalls hired other women, passing on skills like brewing or dyeing. In textile districts, women worked side by side, carding flax or painting pots, their chatter easing long hours. Papyrus records from Memphis show women forming partnerships, pooling coins to buy goods or fight unfair taxes. These networks, built on shared work, let them thrive in crowded, bustling streets. Noble women's communities were smaller but vital. In villas, they surrounded themselves with ladies-in-waiting, often kin or daughters of allies. These women sewed, sang, or played harps together, their talk weaving alliances. A noblewoman like Nefertari hosted feasts, her table laden with figs and wine, strengthening ties with other families. During wars or plagues, she relied on these women to manage servants or send messages to allies, their loyalty forged in quiet moments by candlelight. Temples were unique communities for women. Priestesses, often noble, lived in sacred complexes, their days filled with rituals and work. They sang hymns to Hathor, wove linens for statues, or tended gardens of myrrh and lotus. Novices learned from older priestesses, memorizing prayers or mixing incense. These women, bound by faith, supported each other like sisters, sharing meals of bread and fish in stone courtyards. Some, like those in the Temple of Amun, cared for orphans or the sick, their work a bridge to the wider world. Community meant caregiving. Peasant women nursed neighbors, boiling coriander for coughs or binding wounds with linen. City women shared food with struggling vendors, their stalls a hub of charity. Noble women funded temple hospitals, providing grain or bandages for the poor. During plagues, women risked their lives to tend the sick, burning resin to purify air. These acts, rooted in faith and kindness, tightened bonds but exposed women to disease, their courage a quiet sacrifice. Challenges tested these networks. In villages, disputes over land or water sparked tension, though women often resolved them with shared meals. In cities, competition for customers could strain friendships, but women bartered to keep peace. Noble women faced court rivalries, their allies sometimes turning for favor, yet they rebuilt trust with gifts of jewelry or cloth. Temples demanded offerings, straining budgets, but women gave what they could, their faith uniting them. Seasons shaped community life. Spring planting united village women, their songs rising over fields. Autumn harvests brought shared feasts, with bread and beer under sycamore trees. Winter evenings saw women weaving together, their spindles clicking by firelight. In cities, summer markets buzzed with trade, while winter slowed, giving time for prayer groups. Noble women hosted festival banquets, their villas glowing with lamps and laughter. Resilience defined these bonds. Peasant women rebuilt after floods, sharing tools to mend huts. City women rallied after market fires, pooling coins to restart stalls. Noble women sheltered allies during wars, their villas safe havens. Some, like the women of Deir el-Medina, recorded their support in papyrus, leaving tales of shared strength. As the night grows still, picture the woman by her neighbor's fire, her beer jug shared, her laughter soft. The market's hum fades, the villa's feast ends. These communities, woven from small acts, hold strong. Let their warmth wrap you, carrying you into sleep as we prepare for the next part of our tale. The Nile flows softly under a blanket of stars, its waters a quiet hum in the stillness of an Egyptian village. Inside a mud brick hut, a widow sits by a flickering oil lamp, weaving linen to trade at market. In a bustling city, another widow arranges her stall, her hands steady as she counts jars of beer. In a grand villa, a noblewoman, now alone, seals a papyrus with her signet ring, managing her late husband's lands. Widowhood in ancient Egypt brought both loss and opportunity, granting women a rare chance to shape their own paths. In this ninth part, we explore how widows, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles navigated their new lives with resilience and strength. Let the gentle rhythm of their stories guide you into a peaceful sleep. For peasant women, widowhood was a heavy burden, but also a doorway to independence. A husband's death, often from fever, flood, or field work, left a woman to manage alone. She took up his tasks, plowing fields with a wooden hoe or guiding oxen through muddy soil. Her mud brick hut, once shared, became her domain, its reed mats and clay hearth now hers to tend. She harvested barley or flax, her hands calloused, to feed her children and pay taxes to the pharaoh. Papyrus records from villages like Deir el-Medina show widows like Naunakte farming their husbands' plot, their labor ensuring survival. The law favored widows. Egyptian custom allowed a woman to inherit her husband's land or a share of it, called her portion, which she worked until her sons were grown or she remarried. She paid taxes in grain or linen, bartering extra cloth at market to cover costs. Some widows faced a widow's tax, a fee to keep their land, often a basket of wheat or a goat. Yet this right to property gave them power. A widow could refuse remarriage, choosing to live alone, her hut a small fortress of independence. Village communities supported widows. Neighbors shared food, a loaf of bread or a fish, when harvests were lean. Women gathered at the well, offering to watch a widow's children while she worked fields. Older women, respected as healers, taught widows to mix herbs or weave finer linen for trade. This network, built on shared toil, eased the loneliness of loss. Still, many widows remarried for security, joining a new husband's household. Though some stayed independent, their strength forged in solitude. In cities like Memphis, widowhood offered more paths. A craftsman's widow might inherit his workshop, selling pots or beer at market. She set up her stall under a reed awning, her voice calling to traders, her hands quick with scales. Egyptian law granted widows full rights, unlike married women under a husband's authority. A widow could sign contracts, sue for debts, or own property. Her name marked on papyrus. Records show women like Timehotep running shops, their profits supporting children or kin. City widows faced challenges. Markets were competitive, and men often undercut prices. Yet widows adapted, joining women's networks to share goods or tips. A brewer might trade jars with a weaver, their alliance strong against rivals. Some joined temple groups, offering bread to Isis in exchange for community support. Widows also took apprentices, teaching girls to dye cloth or tally coins, their knowledge a legacy. These bonds, formed in bustling streets, gave them resilience to thrive. Noble women's widowhood brought wealth but pressure. A noble widow inherited a third of her husband's estate. Lands, orchards, or slaves called her dower. She managed these, collecting grain from tenants or trading wine with merchants. Papyrus records describe women like Sinet, who ran estates in the New Kingdom, her decisions binding. She lived in a villa with painted walls, her servants weaving linen or tending gardens. Yet remarriage loomed, as families sought to tie her wealth to new alliances. Some resisted, like Queen Tai, who ruled as regent for her son, her authority carved in stone. Royal widows held immense power but walked a perilous path. A queen like Ankhesenamun, widowed young, faced court plots to seize her throne. She might rule as regent, issuing decrees or leading rituals, her image painted beside gods. Yet rivals, other wives or nobles, schemed for control. Some widows entered temples as priestesses, dedicating their wealth to Hathor, their vows shielding them from forced marriages. Their lives, though grand, were a delicate balance of power and survival. Temples offered widows a role. As priestesses, they sang hymns or tended sacred gardens, their work respected. They managed temple lands, allocating grain for offerings, their names on papyrus rolls. Some widows funded shrines, their gifts of gold or incense earning divine favor. These acts, blending faith and authority, gave them purpose, their voices echoing in stone halls. Daily life for widows was a blend of duty and freedom. A peasant widow rose at dawn, milking goats before the village stirred. She baked bread, wove cloth, and bartered at market, her children trailing behind. A city widow opened her stall, weighing fish or beer, her ledger marked with careful tallies. A noble widow oversaw servants, her papyrus accounts lit by lamplight. These tasks, once shared, were now hers alone, their rhythm a quiet strength. Challenges were many. Taxes drained widows' stores, forcing careful bartering. City widows faced cheating traders, yet fought back in courts. Noble widows navigated court intrigues, their lands coveted. The temple, while a refuge, demanded offerings, stretching meager budgets. Yet widows endured. A farmer's wife replanted after floods. A city woman rebuilt her stall after fire. A noble woman secured her son's future with clever deals. Seasons shaped their lives. Spring planting kept peasant widows in fields. Autumn harvests filled their granaries. Winter, with markets slow, was for weaving or teaching children. Festivals, like the Feast of Bastet, brought widows together, their dances a moment of joy. These cycles, tied to the Nile, gave their days rhythm, their resilience a steady beat. As the night deepens, picture the widow by her lamp, her linen woven, her hands resting. The market grows quiet, the villa still. Her independence, hard-earned, holds her world steady. Let this image cradle you, carrying you into sleep as we prepare for the next part of our tale. The Nile sparkles under a velvet sky, its waters whispering secrets to the reeds along an Egyptian village. Inside a mud-brick hut, a woman places a scarab amulet on her child's chest, murmuring a spell for protection. In a bustling city, another woman offers a lotus flower at a temple, her eyes fixed on a statue of Anubis. In a noble villa, a woman gazes at a painted tomb wall, her thoughts on the afterlife's mysteries. Beliefs in ancient Egypt were woven with magic, gods, and the promise of eternity, shaping women's lives with awe and wonder. In this 10th part, we explore how women, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles embraced the mysteries of their world, from spells to tombs, seeking meaning beyond the mortal. Let the soft cadence of their beliefs lull you into a peaceful sleep. For peasant women, mysteries were part of daily life. They lived in a world where gods walked among them. Ra in the sun, Hathor in love, Anubis in death. Each morning, a woman prayed at a small shrine in her hut, a clay figure of Bes or Isis on a mud-brick shelf. She offered a fig or a crumb of bread, asking for health or a good harvest. These acts, simple but sacred, tied her to the divine, her whispers blending with the Nile's gentle flow. Magic was real. Spells written on papyrus or spoken over a sick child, believed to banish illness or evil spirits. The afterlife was a constant thought. Peasant women believed in the field of reeds, a paradise where harvests never failed. They prepared for death, wrapping loved ones in linen for burial, their hands folding cloth with care. Mummification was rare for the poor, but they placed small amulets, hanks or scarabs, in graves, hoping to guide souls to Osiris. Funerals were modest, with women chanting laments by the Nile, their voices mourning yet hopeful. These rituals, learned from mothers, gave comfort, promising reunion in eternity. Village women shared tales of mysteries. By firelight, they spoke of hidden pyramid chambers or curses guarding pharaohs' tombs. These stories, passed down through generations, mixed fear and wonder, teaching children to honor the gods. Women also used magic for practical needs. A spell might protect crops from locusts, written on a clay shard and buried in a field. A healer, often an older woman, mixed herbs with chants, her knowledge blending faith and skill, her remedies soothing fevers or pains. In cities like Thebes, beliefs were grander, centered on towering temples. Women visited shrines to Isis or Sekhmet, offering beer or lotus flowers, their prayers for fertility or healing echoing in stone halls. Temples were alive with mystery. Priests performed secret rites, and women, as chantresses, joined in, shaking sistrums to please the gods. Their linen robes swayed, their voices soft but clear, part of rituals said to keep the cosmos in balance. City women wore amulets like turquoise eyes of Horus, tucked under dresses for protection from harm. Festivals brought mysteries to life. During the Feast of the Valley, women walked to tombs, carrying bread or wine to honor the dead. They believed spirits lingered, needing offerings to thrive in the afterlife. These processions, with flutes and chants, were both solemn and joyful, uniting families under starlit skies. City women also consulted oracles, asking priests to read omens, bird flights or Nile, ripples, for guidance on marriage or trade. These answers, seen as divine, shaped their choices, their faith a quiet anchor. Noble women embraced beliefs with splendor. Their villas held private chapels, gilded statues of Osiris or Hathor gleaming by lamplight. They offered wine or myrrh, praying for their children's futures or their husband's favor at court. Some, as priestesses, led temple rituals, pouring milk before statues or burning incense. Their wealth funded tomb paintings, showing them sailing to the afterlife, their images eternal. Women like Nefertari had tombs carved in the Valley of the Queens, their walls painted with gods, a testament to their faith in eternity. The afterlife was a noblewoman's focus. She commissioned coffins with spells from the Book of the Dead, papyrus texts guiding souls past dangers. Her servants prepared offerings, bread, figs, or linen, for her tomb, ensuring comfort in the next world. Some noble women studied these texts, learning hieroglyphs to read spells, their knowledge blending faith and power. Their tombs, filled with jewelry or statues, were mysteries themselves, sealed to protect their souls from thieves or curses. Temples were hubs of mystical knowledge. Priestesses, often noble, guarded secrets, like the location of sacred springs or the meaning of star alignments. They mixed potions for rituals, using myrrh or lotus, believed to connect the living and divine. Some women, like those in the Temple of Hathor, wrote spells on papyrus, their words preserving ancient magic. These roles gave them influence, their names carved on temple walls beside gods. Beliefs shaped daily life. A peasant woman tied a scarab to her child's wrist, whispering a charm at dawn. A city woman paused at a shrine, her lotus offering a plea for love. A noble woman read hymns by candlelight, her voice steady with devotion. These acts, small but sacred, wove faith into their days. Festivals, like Bastet's feast, brought women together, dancing in cat masks, their joy a fleeting escape from toil. Challenges tested faith. Droughts or plagues seemed like God's anger, pushing women to offer more at shrines, straining their stores. Temples demanded gifts, leaving peasants with less bread. Heresy, like Akhenaten's worship of Aten, disrupted rituals, forcing women to adapt. Yet belief endured. A farmer's wife prayed through famine, her amulet clutched tightly. A city woman chanted spells during illness, her hope firm. A noble woman built a shrine, her faith a legacy in stone. Seasons shaped beliefs. Summer floods sparked prayers for fertile fields. Autumn harvests brought offerings of grain. Winter evenings were for telling tales of gods. Spring festivals for dancing to Hathor. These cycles, tied to the Nile, made faith a living rhythm, as constant as breath. As the night settles, picture the woman by her shrine, her amulet placed, her spell whispered. The temple's torches dim, the villa's chapel grows still. Her beliefs, quiet but deep, hold her world steady. Let this image cradle you, carrying you into sleep as we prepare for the next part of our tale. The Nile flows gently under a canopy of stars, its waters a quiet murmur in the stillness of an Egyptian village. Inside a mud brick hut, a woman kneads dough by firelight, her hands steady despite a lean harvest. In a bustling city, another woman rebuilds her market stall, her voice firm as she barters for wood after a flood. In a noble villa, a woman pens a letter to secure her family's lands, her quill moving with purpose in the lamplight. Resilience was the unspoken strength of ancient Egyptian women, who faced drought, disease, and loss with courage and ingenuity. In this 11th part, we explore how women, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles, endured hardships, weaving their strength into the fabric of their world. Let the soft rhythm of their perseverance lull you into a peaceful sleep. For peasant women, resilience was a daily act. Life was harsh, floods ruined fields, fevers took children, and taxes drained their stores. A woman woke to find her barley crop withered, yet she salvaged seeds, replanting with weary hands. The Great Famine of the First Intermediate Period, around 2100 BCE, starved villages, but women stretched meals with wild roots or lotus seeds, their pottage thin but shared. When plagues struck, as they did in cycles, women nursed the sick, boiling garlic or coriander, risking their lives to save kin. Loss shaped their strength. A husband's death from fieldwork or fever left a widow to plow alone, her wooden hoe heavy in the Nile's mud. She fed her children with gleaned grain, her back bent from hours in the fields. Papyrus records from Deir el Medina show women like Merit, who rebuilt her hut after a storm, bartering linen for reeds. When wars or raids disrupted villages, women hid food in clay jars or fled with their young, returning to sow again. Their resilience was quiet, rooted in the need to survive. Community fueled their endurance. Neighbors shared bread when a widow's granary was empty, their hands passing loaves over mud brick walls. Women gathered at the well, trading tips on herbs or weaving, their chatter a balm for grief. Older women, wise from years of hardship, taught younger ones to dry fish or mend nets, their knowledge a lifeline. Festivals, like the Feast of Opet, offered relief, with women dancing under starlight, their laughter a brief escape from toil. In cities like Memphis, resilience shone in trade and survival. Markets were tough, with men often undercutting prices, but women adapted. A brewer whose stall burned in a fire rebuilt with borrowed wood, her beer jars lined up again by dawn. Plagues swept through crowded streets, yet women kept selling bread or cloth, their hands steady despite fear. Papyrus records tell of women like Time-Hotep, who ran a pottery shop after her husband's death, her profits feeding her children. City women faced economic strain. Taxes to the pharaoh took much of their earnings, and cheating traders tested their wits. Yet they fought back, suing in courts for unpaid debts, their voices sharp before scribes. They formed alliances, sharing stalls or goods to outlast rivals. When floods washed away markets, women worked together, hauling mud to rebuild. Their resilience was in their adaptability, learned through years of navigating bustling streets. Noble women showed strength in power and politics. Court life was treacherous, with rivals plotting for land or favor. A widow like Tie, mother of Akhenaten, ruled as regent, her decisions guiding Egypt through unrest. During wars, noble women managed estates, rationing grain or arming guards to protect villas. Papyrus records describe women like Senet, who negotiated with priests to secure her son's inheritance, her words outwitting rivals. Their strength lay in strategy, their minds sharp as they balanced alliances. Childbirth tested all women. Peasant mothers bore children on reed mats, returning to fields days later, their bodies aching. City women worked through pregnancies, stirring beer vats while nursing infants. Noble women, with better care, still risked death in labor, their midwives praying to Bes. Loss was common. Half of children died, young, but women carried on, raising survivors with fierce care. A mother's grief was private. Her strength shone in her steady hands as she wove or cooked. Faith was a pillar of resilience. Peasant women prayed to Isis during droughts, their scarab amulets clutched tightly. City women offered lotus flowers at temples, seeking strength through plagues. Noble women built shrines, their gold ensuring divine favor. Temples, like those of Hathor, were refuges, where women found solace in chants or offerings. Priestesses like Nefertari wrote hymns, their words a comfort to others, their faith a steady light in dark times. Seasons shaped their endurance. Summer floods tested patience, with women replanting washed-out fields. Autumn harvests rewarded toil, their granaries filled by calloused hands. Winter brought hunger, but women rationed grain. Their pottage stretched with herbs. Spring festivals, like Bastet's feast, lifted spirits, with women dancing despite weary bodies. These cycles, tied to the Nile, taught them to adapt, their resilience as constant as the river. Challenges were relentless. Droughts starved villages, plagues emptied streets, and court plots threatened noblewomen's lands. Taxes drained resources, forcing women to barter or borrow. Yet they endured. A farmer's wife saved seeds through famine. A city woman rebuilt after loss, her stall thriving. A noblewoman outsmarted rivals, her son's future secure. Some, like Hatshepsut, left legacies in stone, their strength carved for eternity. Daily life held small victories. A peasant woman shared beer with neighbors, her smile bright despite a lean day. A city woman counted coins, her ledger balanced after a hard market. A noblewoman played senet with her children, her laughter easing court stress. These moments, fleeting but warm, fueled their resolve, their bonds a quiet strength. As the night grows still, picture the woman by her fire, her dough kneaded, her hands resting. The market's hum fades, the villa's lamps dim. Her resilience, steady and unspoken, holds her world together. Let this image cradle you, carrying you into sleep as we prepare for the next part of our tale. The Nile's waters gleam under a crescent moon, their gentle ripples a lullaby for an Egyptian village wrapped in night. Inside a mud brick hut, a woman carves her name on a clay shard, her fingers tracing a legacy for her children. In a bustling city, another woman paints a lotus on a tomb wall, her brush steady as she honors the dead. In a noble villa, a woman oversees a statue's carving, her image destined to stand eternal in a temple's shadow. In ancient Egypt, women's legacies were woven into the fabric of their lives, through work, faith, and love, leaving marks that time could not erase. In this final part, we explore how women, farmers, city dwellers, and nobles crafted memories that endured in stone, story, and spirit. Let the soft cadence of their legacies guide you into a peaceful sleep. For peasant women, legacy was simple but profound. Their lives were etched in the daily acts that sustained their families. A mother taught her daughter to grind wheat, her hands guiding the quern, passing on the rhythm of bread-making. She wove linen, her loom's steady click a lesson in patience. The cloth traded to feed her kin. These skills, handed down through generations, were her mark on the world, ensuring her children could survive the Nile's whims. Her name might not be carved in stone, but her recipes for pottage or salves lived on in her daughter's hands. Peasant women left traces in their communities. A healer, mixing garlic for fevers, shared her cures with neighbors, her wisdom whispered at the well. When she died, her clay amulets, scarabs or ankhs, were buried with her, tokens of her faith in the afterlife. Funerals were modest, with women chanting laments by the Nile, their voices weaving her memory into village tales. Some left small gifts, like a woven basket or a copper ring, to daughters who wore them with pride, keeping her spirit close. In villages, storytelling was a legacy. By firelight, a woman told tales of Isis or the pyramid's builders, her words shaping her children's dreams. These stories of gods and harvests carried her values: resilience, faith, community. Through time, a grandmother's tale of a great flood, survived by cleverness, taught her grandchildren to save seeds. Her legacy was oral, her voice a thread in the village's history, remembered as children grew and told the tales again. In cities like Thebes, women's legacies were more visible. A brewer's wife, selling beer at market, taught her apprentices to ferment barley, her recipe known for its sweet tang. Her stall, shaded by reeds, was a hub where women traded goods and stories, her name linked to the jars she sold. Some city women, like those in papyrus records, left wills, dividing their goods, pots, linen, or coins, among their children. These documents, scratched by scribes, ensured their daughters inherited equally, a rare right in the ancient world. City women also left marks through craft. A weaver painted lotus designs on cloth, her patterns copied by others, her skill a quiet legacy. Some joined temple groups, offering bread to Isis, their charity remembered by the poor. At festivals, like the Feast of the Valley, they walked to tombs, leaving flowers or bread for the dead, their acts tying them to eternity. Their names, sometimes marked on clay or papyrus, lived in market ledgers or temple rolls, proof of their place in the city's hum. Noble women's legacies were grand, carved in stone and gold. A noblewoman funded shrines, her name etched on temple walls beside Hathor or Amun. She commissioned statues, her likeness in limestone, standing in a villa's garden or a temple's court. Her tomb, painted with scenes of feasts or prayers, told her story, her piety, her wealth, her children. Women like Nefertari, whose tomb in the Valley of the Queens glows with vivid murals, ensured their memory endured, their images sailing to the afterlife with Osiris. Noble women also left legacies through power. As regents, like Tiye for her son Akhenaten, they shaped Egypt's laws or trade, their decrees on papyrus guiding the land. They managed estates, their decisions, allocating grain or settling disputes, recorded by scribes. Some, as priestesses, led rituals, their hymns to Hathor sung for centuries. Their wealth funded obelisks or ships, like Hatshepsut's expedition to Punt, their names tied to Egypt's glory. Royal women's legacies were eternal. Queens like Cleopatra wrote their own histories, their letters to foreign kings shaping empires. Their tombs, filled with gold and spells, were sealed against time, though many were lost to thieves. Their images, carved on temple walls, showed them as goddesses, their power divine. Even in death they influenced, their sons or daughters ruling with their wisdom. Papyrus texts praise queens like Nefertiti, their beauty and strength a beacon for generations. Temples preserved women's memories. Priestesses, often noble, recorded their deeds on stelae, their offerings to gods ensuring favor. They taught novices, passing hymns or herbal cures, their knowledge a living legacy. Some funded hospital wings, their gifts of grain or linen aiding the sick. These acts, blending faith and charity, tied their names to sacred spaces, their voices echoing in chants long after they were gone. Daily life was a canvas for legacy. A peasant woman baked bread, her recipe taught to her daughter. A city woman marked her stall's goods, her tallies kept by apprentices. A noblewoman read hymns, her children learning her words. These small acts, repeated daily, built a chain of memory, linking mothers to daughters across years. Festivals, like Bastet's feast, saw women leave garlands or songs, their joy a gift to the future. Challenges tested their legacy. Tomb robbers stole treasures, erasing noblewomen's marks. Village fires burned huts, leaving only stories. Illiteracy meant many women's deeds went unrecorded, their lives fading into oral tales. Yet resilience shone. A peasant woman rebuilt her granary, her children fed. A city woman trained others, her craft surviving. A noblewoman's statue stood, her name defying time. Seasons shaped their memory. Autumn harvests saw women store grain, their care ensuring survival. Winter evenings were for tales, spring festivals for dances that lingered in memory. The Nile's rhythm carried their lives forward, their legacies as enduring as its flow. As the night grows still, picture the woman by her lamp, her name carved, her hands resting. The city's hum fades, the villa's statues gleam. Her legacy, quiet but eternal, holds her world steady. Let this image cradle you, carrying you into sleep as we end our tale. The Nile's gentle flow fades into the night, its waters carrying the echoes of ancient Egyptian women. Their work, their faith, their enduring legacies. The village fire dims, the city market quiets, and the noble villa grows still. Thank you for joining us on this soothing journey through the sands of time with Mindleapic. If these tales of life, love, and mysteries helped you drift toward sleep, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to Mindleapic for more calming stories, and leave a comment with your thoughts or what historical era you'd like to explore next. Let the whispers of Egypt's women cradle you into a restful night. Good night, and we'll meet again in the next tale.